scan sonar. That's why we have a stabilizing fin that was added to the back of Argus. It's just a tall, vertically oriented fin.
I'm doing a target.
Oh, target 15?
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
.55 to starboard. Thank you.
So on the sonar screen, you can also see the yellow and the blue lines going across, and you see HF and low F, and that is high frequency and lower frequency. This Edutech sonar system does transmit two frequency signals, 600 and 300 kilohertz, and that provides different definition and also distance. So the blue line that you see right there goes out to about 120 meters, but doesn't provide the same level of resolution, where if you look at the ones right at the yellow, it does not go nearly as far, but it does provide a greater level of definition. So you're seeing roughly the same things, just one has a slightly bigger scope, while the other has a slightly higher definition for that shorter area. Feel free to continue to send in those questions. I know we have our U.S. audience joining us, and we have an audience all over the world, and we really appreciate you guys exploring with us right now, especially as we undergo this incredibly exciting journey to hopefully locate the remains of the Samoan Clipper. If you are unfamiliar with the Samoan Clipper, it was a Sikorsky S-42B type flying boat, and one of very few that was actually made. And unfortunately, the very famous pilot Ed Music, at the time, in January 11th, 1938, and his 6 crew members went on their fateful final flight from Pago Pago, where we're about 12 miles off the coast of Tapu Tapu Point, towards Auckland with about 751 pounds of cargo, 2,300 gallons of fuel, and noticed a oil leak within the engine and decided to turn around to make an emergency landing. They began dumping fuel, and based on the one eyewitness account, were able to land, and then shortly after landing experienced some type of explosion, which unfortunately took the plane and its crew members. The reports were that after the explosion happened, the wings stayed together, floated for about 5 minutes or so before sinking. And then search and rescue teams were on site pretty quickly, and they were able to discover some personal effects as well as some interior um, components, such as I believe the pilot's armrest to the plane, and um, weren't able to recover the plane or save any of the crew members. And this expedition is actually funded by the Air and Sea Heritage Foundation, and they submitted this white paper about 5 years ago. And now that we're in the area, we're able to bring this search to fruition. We have members of the Air and Sea Heritage Foundation, Search, aviation archaeologists, Lonnie Shore, who is responsible for doing a lot of the archival work and identifying a lot of the primary sources here. So we've got as good a group as you're going to get to be able to hopefully find the Samoan Clipper. The cargo that was being carried was an assortment of things, but it was mainly establishing a mail route. But there were things such as some newsreels, a new typewriter. It wasn't just 751 pounds of letters and things like that. It was quite a bit of different material that was coming along with it. The search area is about 2 square miles. We have not come close to finishing doing our pattern across that search area. We're moving relatively slow, about 1 knot, and we're just around 20 or so meters above the ocean floor, and that's just because this terrain is getting a little rockier. There's some bigger rocks as well as some increase and decrease in elevation, so we're just trying to make sure that we avoid bumping into anything, but we also want to stay at a depth that we can still get a pretty high resolution, so our scientists, our science team can really come up with the targets they think are the best ones that we should spend our time on. We're still a ways out when it comes to being ready to dive Hercules. We're just exclusively diving Argus right now. That's why if you're looking through Argus's camera, you're going to notice that there's a lot more of a heave as we kind of go up and down with the waves. Typically when we have Hercules and the dives that you would see, you don't notice that. And that's because Argus takes the heave from the ship and eliminates it, so Hercules can kind of operate without being dragged back and forth up and down. But since we just have Hercules in the water, which is just Argus in the water directly tied to our tether in our ship, there's nothing there to kind of take that heave off. So you're looking at the camera and you will see us kind of go down a little bit, like right now, and then back up, and then back down. That's why if you're looking at the sonar images as well, you'll start to see a little bit of wiggle in those lines. The hemispherical semicircle you're looking at right there, that's the sonar that's in front of Argus, and that is again also helping us identify anything that might be in front of Argus. As we go, we have bathymetric maps from multi-beam mapping from the Okeanos Explorer, so we've some pretty good maps, but it definitely doesn't hurt to make sure that you're as careful as possible. If and when we do see the wreck, let's say if you saw it on camera just now, and we did, we wouldn't stop. We would just continue on and continue to map the area, and then we would actually kind of shorten our passes over the search area. But those have all been great questions. Thank you so much for asking those, and thank you so much for joining us as whatever time it might be where you're at. It's just about 4 a.m. here in Pongo Pongo, and you're going to probably hear some voices in the background as we continue a shift change.
Alright, well, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
So on the last watch, they went by the Samoan Clipper target, and they didn't see anything that they really liked. But at around the point of the turn, Megan said that there were some interesting targets. So 12 and 13, which are back over there. So what I want to do is continue this line as we do, which is fine, and then come back along line 10. And then at the end of line 10, go over 12 and 13 again, which are kind of in that green jumble turn, as we get up to line 13. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
So basically, we're going to just finish the line we're on, do line 10, and go to line 13, but on the way, we're going to sonar over targets 12 and 13 again so we can get a better look.
Roger.
So it may not even happen on this watch. It's just, generally the plan. So that we can just get a better look at those, barring any other exciting things.
Roger that.
One of the reasons is that 13, I think, was the really good one, was out in the 125 meter range, so it wasn't like, they didn't get a really good look at it because it wasn't like directly over it. We weren't right over it.
Yes, good morning everyone. We just switched watches and I am Valeria in the communications. To respond some of the questions, if we find some wreckage, it will show up more as yellowish. So welcome to the people that just started following us. This expedition has as the main purpose to find the Samoan Clipper. This airplane was lost in January 11th, 1938.
So the other thing the watch said was when they pass this like hilly thing that we have coming up to the west, it got really rocky, and so we're going to go right over it. So we want to probably come up quite a bit just to make sure that we're good there. Because I guess it's not like a multi-beam artifact, it is sort of a little rise, small seamount type thing.
Yeah, we were talking about preemptively coming up a little bit before that.
Yeah.
With the contours, it's looking probably about 30 or so meters off the surrounding bottom.
Yeah, okay, yep. Sounds good.
I think Kevin rubbed off on me too much. I'm looking at all the loose-looking rocks and getting excited.
Too much geology.
Yeah. It was always like a 2-hour search for a loose rock. I'm just pulling on every single one, trying to find one.
So it wasn't even trying to find the right rock, just anything that was loose.
Oh no, it was the right rock. We get into like
Okay.
a big patch of what he wanted, and none of them would be loose.
Oh my god.
So it was the fight for, do we just take nothing or do we take something that doesn't look
Yeah.
great?
There was a couple of different times where they made efforts to make like not really like a rock saw on Herc, but sort of like a rock pounder to sort of like break things free, and it never really went the way they wanted it to.
Yeah, I think we tried a couple times grabbing a big rock and trying to hit other rocks with that rock.
Well, it's tough because the ROV can't really anchor itself, and so whatever you do to a rock kind of pushes back on Herc and makes it go away.
Yeah.
So I think that was what they encountered when they tried to use the sort of jackhammer thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for the people that just started following us, the primary science objective of this expedition is to locate and identify the wreckage of the Pan American Airways plane Simon Clipper. We're northwest of Pago Pago in American Samoa. So that's our main objective with this expedition.
Yeah, I guess that's also a pretty big difference between this cruise and last cruise. Last cruise was, hey, let's look at everything. This one is, let's find this one thing.
Yeah, definitely. Also, you had the pleasure of using Herc at the same time.
Yeah.
Here we have a glimpse of the seabed, but we'll get Herc back.
Yeah, the sonar in front of me is entertaining, but
Oh yeah,
I definitely like the close-up view of everything on the bottom.
So Mike, the LF and HF in Cam 1, that means high frequency and low frequency sonar?
Yes. Yep. So we have two frequencies here. It's a 300 and 600 kilohertz. So the upper one is the high frequency, which is 300 kilohertz, and that we're getting a range of about 100 meters. And the lower one is the top one's 600 kilohertz. The lower one is low frequency, which is 300 kilohertz. And we're still getting a good range of about 100, but we can see a bit further out to 150. But you can see that there's sort of some attenuation, or where the signal kind of drops off. And so you can also see kind of like some of the features that we're seeing in the high frequency you see in the low frequency, but they're a bit closer in. So it's just to get a different range and different quality of return from the sonar. And we can optimize. Right now we're sort of optimizing for range, but because we want to see the seabed at the same time, we kind of sacrifice that a little bit. But we can, if we were to come down closer and kind of go right over a target that we knew about, we could optimize it for the high frequency and get a better map.
Thank you. And we started this search and decided the grid we wanted to scan first based on the Okeanos maps and results, right?
Yeah, so a lot of the background research was done by Russ Matthews and Lonnie Shore, who are on board here, back in like 2014, I think. And we had a workshop out in San Francisco with OET and NOAA and other partners. And the search for Samoan Clipper was presented there as a area of interest for the Eastern Pacific. And so Okeanos then was in the area and able to do the base map ahead, I think in like 2017. So they mapped this area, and so that's what we're using as the base map for our navigation and safety of the vehicles. And so we know the depths pretty well here, and there's this little seamount coming up that we're able to know about ahead of time, thanks to that survey work already being done.
Perfect, thank you. So why the Samoan Clipper? Yeah, they were tasked with the first regular airmail service between the United States and New Zealand. So that was the first time that they were starting to offer this service. So they were pioneers in trying to connect this world. We started the expedition yesterday, so we expect to have a week or so searching for the Samoan Clipper. The lead scientists for this expedition are Ross Matthews and Michael Brennan. Welcome to our channel. Yeah, our next expedition will be mapping the seafloor around American Samoa. So we're going to continue being in this area for a couple of weeks.
Is the next leg mapping?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right, I didn't know that. Yeah, there's a lot more to map. I mean, Okeanos did this small area around for the Samoan Clipper, but there's a whole bunch of area here and all over the Pacific that's never been mapped. So that's great, and it's one of the capabilities that Nautilus has.
Has this side scan sonar been used to find other marine wrecks?
Yes. So, not in this configuration. We attempted to do it in the Mediterranean in 2010 to get down into a deep basin called the Antalya Basin. But as we might have expected, the basin was fairly well sedimented in because of, sediment builds up in basins. So we didn't find anything because we were looking for ancient shipwrecks. But in its other configuration, in the towfish that is referred to as Diana, the goddess of the hunt, which is it's more of a literal towfish, whereas Argus is an ROV, so we would tow it behind the vehicle. We found quite a few ancient shipwrecks, as well as a few modern ones out in the Mediterranean and Black Sea. Between 2000, we started using it in 2008 off of a different ship, and then in Nautilus in 2009 during the first expedition at Gallipoli to look at the World War I fleet, and then off of points in Turkey in the Aegean Sea and the Mediterranean in 2009 through 2012, and then at that point Nautilus left the Mediterranean area for the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico, and the depths in the Aegean Sea are conducive to a 500-meter rated towfish, where, Gulf of Mexico, Pacific Ocean, they don't really, 500 meters doesn't really get you very far, so they haven't really been used that much since. But yeah, we did have quite a bit of success with this sonar locating ships out in the Black Sea and the Mediterranean.
Someone just passed some espresso beans here. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Yeah, they're kind of necessary up here sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
Especially at 4:30 in the morning.
4:30, yeah. We're up late fixing Argus too.
You guys really did look like a pit crew out there.
Yeah. Breakdown maintenance. The coffee beans are good. I find if I have like actual coffee up here, it's not very good. I can drink buckets of coffee and then have to stay up here for 4 hours. And the beans are like, you figure out the exact dose that you need. 3 beans every hour.
And a lot less liquid,
Yeah, yeah, it's better.
which is helpful.
Yeah. They're like medication, just pills. Just take 3.
How do you like your coffee, you guys?
I like it to be good and out of typically out of the AeroPress, but I buy all the fancy hipster coffees.
What are those?
all the you know, the expensive ones, and then
Oh, cool.
you can tell because they've changed the size of the pound to 340 grams as a hipster pound,
Oh.
and it costs more. You get-
Yeah. Those come special from Seattle or Brooklyn.
Yes. Yeah.
I like mine like dark roast with a little cream in it.
Nice.
Sometimes hazelnut flavor, but here I can't be that picky.
I like it at a consistency where your spoon doesn't stand up in the cup,
Yeah. That's good.
which is
Setting
hard.
the bar high.
It's hard to get on a ship sometimes, not gonna lie.
I typically drink coffee black, but you know, could be ice, could be hot, and occasionally a cappuccino or something.
Yeah, this is a good ship for coffee. There's a lot of different ways to make coffee here.
Yeah, Justin and Ethan and a few others started.
Yes, yeah.
They showed up with the AeroPress, and everyone was like, "What is that?" And
Yeah.
Ethan would always. He had a French press and his own, and the grinder I think he brought in, and Brendan Phillips, one of our former ROV pilots who's now at URI, would he brought in a French press and grinder as well. So that started early on, and it's fun to see that there's like a huge assemblage of alternate coffee making appliances down in the window.
Yeah, it's great. And
And then they showed me a new one yesterday. Justin had like a handheld espresso maker that like forces the press. I don't know. It's like that one's a new one to me. I've never seen anything like that. But it looked like it was making really good espresso. So whatever it takes, guys.
yeah, that makes very good coffee. Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. It's pretty. It's like the AeroPress, but a more nuanced version of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a little bit longer to get your coffee, but if you're off it, like they have their little the coffee club at whatever hour,
coffee
you know,
club.
it takes them a half an hour to get an ounce of coffee. you
Yeah,
know?
it does. And I'm sitting there like, nope, I'm going to do a pour
Yeah.
over because it takes like 4 seconds instead
Right.
of 30 minutes. There is a trade-off.
Yeah.
I'm like leaning away from just going to the pot and whatever's in there because that's fair desperation, I think.
The pot scares me. I don't have anything to do with the coffee pot. No. But Chris talking about spoon standing up in coffee. That's
Yep.
Rebecca, do you drink coffee at all?
I do, yeah.
All right. You're quiet, so I wanted, if you're like, I don't drink coffee, I didn't want to offend you, but.
Oh no, you're fine.
so a trick down there for anybody who didn't bring their own expensive fancy coffee and who don't want to drink the syrup out of the pot. You can take the ship's coffee that is used to go in the pot, which is fair game, and just make a pour over or an AeroPress yourself. At least it's not the best coffee, but at least you'll get a fresh cup.
Yeah, and since getting on yesterday, I did try some of the regular pot coffee, which had been freshly made, so it wasn't sludge. And then I've done the pour overs, and it's amazing. It's the same beans, and the taste difference is huge.
Yeah.
So the pour over at a minimum is highly recommended.
We need a latte machine.
So I've actually been on a research ship that had an entire espresso machine. Like,
Wow.
it was probably the length of half of this table. It was bright like race car red, and it was an Italian research ship called the Alliance. It's actually the Jeff Goldblum ship in Life Aquatic is the ship that they used for that. And it was, so of course there's like an Italian chef and like this espresso bar is just like this is spoiling everybody forever for ship food.
I sailed.
Nautilus, other than the coffee, Nautilus comes pretty close food-wise.
I sailed with a group that brought their own espresso machine.
They brought their own.
Yep.
That's
something else.
speaking of checked baggage fees.
Yeah, right.
Well, they shipped a bunch of
They
containers, so it
okay.
was just in one of the,
Yeah.
the crates.
Okay,
that
that
was
makes
shipped
more
out.
sense. If you've already paid.
And we were in the Arctic for a month, so.
Okay.
It
If you're in
was-
the Arctic for a month, I could see hot liquids being essential and not just a guilty pleasure,
Yeah.
but necessity. Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a little far away from my first choice of coffee, which is Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee.
Really? So after this, your comment about all the hipster coffee, your go-to.
Yeah,
that's
that's surprising.
I mean, I'm a fan of Dunkin' too. I just that it surprises me.
Oh, that's all Mike with his hipster coffee.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was him talking. Sorry,
Yeah, no,
I don't
no.
know all your voices very well yet.
Chris is content to drink syrup coffee.
I mean, yeah. I'll deal with it however it comes, but otherwise.
Yeah, well, us New England people, we have to have our Dunkin'.
Yeah, and people try to argue with me that it's not the best coffee. I'm like, that's not the point.
And it's just Dunkin' now, right? It's been changed.
Oh
to
yeah,
that,
they
hasn't it?
changed. So all the new stores are coming out. It's just Dunkin', because that's all anyone ever calls it.
Right.
Wait, it's not Dunkin' Donuts anymore?
No.
Oh, they got rid of that.
I mean, there's still
Huh.
donuts.
No, I know, but it's interesting.
Yeah,
No,
but
well, do people call it Dunkin' or do they just call it Dunks or Dunkies?
yeah,
like-
Dunks, Dunkies, DDs.
Donkeys.
It's however you're feeling at the time, or
I find that on the ship I actually drink a lot less coffee than I do in my normal life because I think the watch schedule, just never being up,
Right,
always
yeah.
having to like go to sleep within like a few hours of my free time was like never,
yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
my body just kind of doesn't want it.
Yeah, when it's a sleep when you can get it kind of a deal, you don't want to be wired on coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, good morning to the Tech Trek Marine Science class. Hello, girls. Welcome to our channel.
It's funny, the subject that she got the greatest response out had nothing
Yeah,
to do
coffee.
with science.
Yeah.
Well,
Whatever it takes.
do you want to tell us how to read these side scans so we can? Because to me everything looks like a giant wing or an engine.
Yeah, sure. So basically this